Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Triple Play, that podcast where Patrick Stewart ruins our life. Because this month we watched Iron Man, Armored Adventures.
Written by Christopher Yost.
Directed by Stefan Youfei and Philippe Guillen.
And aired on April 24th, 2009. So we watched the first two episodes of the Iron Man Armored Adventures animated TV series.
If you can even call it that.
Yeah.
I remember watching this as a wee young lad.
Oh, really?
Well, not really a wee young lad.
Think
more
you
like
mentioned
a,
that.
like a
12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And did you
12?
watch a few episodes and then stop watching it?
Well, it wasn't like I actively sought it out. I just turned on, I think it aired on Disney CW. I just turned on the TV, and it was on. Like, all right. It was enjoyable as for a 12-year-old.
I don't think I would have even enjoyed this as a 12-year-old. I didn't enjoy it now.
Compared to some of the other things they were releasing in 2009.
Yeah, I mean,
all the good television shows were on Cartoon Network. Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory. That was a
I
classic.
think you said it like how Dexter pronounces it.
You have to. You have to say it the way the characters pronounce it. It's the only official pronunciation.
He's the only one who says it like that.
He's the main character.
Yeah, there were some real, I don't know if this is just a nostalgia thing or whatever, but there were some real Cartoon Network gems like in the 2000s. Like
some
now,
Hanna-Barbera gems too. Flintstones, Jetsons, those were good too.
well, those were from like the 60s. Or 50s, I'm not sure.
But I think they aired on Cartoon Network.
They kept airing, yeah, they kept
because
airing.
I think Cartoon Network bought Hanna-Barbera just before
or they
2000,
like have the rights to
them.
show their shows.
So again, like that was my point. Was they were airing on Cartoon Network? I think I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean now there's the entire.
Well, there's a Hanna-Barbera network, right?
Yeah, well, it's what's it called? Boomerang, which is from Cartoon Network in a way. I think.
I think so.
Yeah. But I mean, now you look at, I don't know, Cartoon Network as well, and like, I don't know, there's a lot of, I don't really partake in any of this. There's a lot of like controversy, especially like heated online discussion and stuff of like the creative bankruptcy and like nepotism of Cartoon Network.
The Powerpuff Girls reboot isn't great. I've seen an episode or two, and it's not that great. So
yeah, I mean,
there's also that writer who wrote himself in as a character on the Powerpuff Girls show who falls in love with, what's the red one's name? Blossom?
God, I can't believe I forgot.
Bubbles is the
Bubbles is the blue one.
Yeah, Bubbles is the blue one.
Blossom, okay. Buttercup is the pink one or red one.
Oh, okay, Buttercup. Yeah,
and
he self-inserts himself as a character who falls in love with the red one.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird.
I remember that when it came out.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like all this controversy of like the Cal Arts, like nepotism and Cartoon Network, and like the Thundercats, Thundercats Wild thing or whatever that people were really pissed about because the 2011 like awesome Thundercats got canceled, and now there's this and yeah, 2011 Thundercats actually wasn't awesome, nor was the original show. I know I've said this before, but Thundercats is like a show that. And you can tell we don't want to talk about stupid Iron Man Armored Adventures because we're not talking about it. But Thundercats is a show that, like, I like it when I'm not watching it. When I watch it, I was like, I remember why I don't watch this show anymore.
Amazing.
The intro animation for the original series is amazing, though. There was, I think it's one of the yeah they did. It's one of the best I think of the early '80s or whatever.
That Jackie Chan show was pretty good too when I was a kid. It was a Jackie Chan show.
I know, I remember that show.
They were searching, I don't remember what they were searching
for.
Like
medallions or something?
Yeah, medallions that allowed them to transform into... And they were based on
like the different... use like magic powers or something.
Yeah, they were based on the different like kung fu fighting styles, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting show.
I liked it.
Yeah, But anyway, Iron Man Armored Adventures. So this comes out at a time when Iron Man is getting huge.
Yeah, 2009, so after the first movie.
Yeah, and there was a 90s Iron Man TV show,
Yeah.
which was live action, I believe.
Never watched it.
Neither have I. I haven't even seen what it looks like, but this is sort of all right. Like, Marvel now is appealing, I guess, to an older audience with movies like Iron Man and soon to be Avengers and stuff like that. But also, like, kids are going to see this, so.
Yeah, let's appeal to those younger audiences.
Right. So the premise of this is that Tony Stark is a high school student, and he kind of
high school alleged student.
Yeah. All right. And in theory, like, I like this concept. Is like he's this. It's because it's kind of Spider-Man-esque, right? He has to deal with like the pressures of being a kid, but he's also like he's saving the world.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching this. I was like, they just made Tony Stark Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, to appeal to kids is why this was done, of course. Although that's not all. I mean, you think back to like X-Men the animated series and these other ones. Right. Or like Batman the animated series is like that's not always done. It's not always done. Like it's like X-Men the animated series isn't X-Men in high school. Batman the animated series is not Batman in high school. Although there is Batman Beyond, which is like the successor to Batman, who's in high school.
Yeah, I heard that show was pretty good. Though.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty good. Batman the animated series is also. I recommend watching that show.
But what about The Batman?
I don't know about that one. Yeah, some of the people who worked on this, I think Christopher Yost worked on The Batman. Mm-hmm. Christopher Yost has worked on a lot of animated superhero things.
But what about Teen Titans?
No, I don't think he worked on Teen Titans. Teen Titans is another one that I would like.
What about Teen Titans Go?
No. Thundercats Wild is the Teen Titans Go of Thundercats, if that makes sense.
But I like Teen Titans Go, unironically. Or I think I started liking it ironically, but then I started liking it unironically.
Wow.
They're like...
Wow.
It's pretty aware of how different it is, which I think makes it interesting.
I don't care. Like,
there's a whole episode where every character has it's like an episode where every character has a dream. And they're like, I think Robin's jumping from one person's dream to another.
Of course. Every cartoon has the episode where they visit each other's dreams.
But all their dreams are done in different styles, and one of the dreams is done in the style of the original Teen Titans show. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, real...
Meta.
I was going to say, really makes me... Never mind. I don't want to go into... Whatever.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies was apparently a really good movie, too. It was like Deadpool for kids, apparently.
But Deadpool's already for kids.
That's... No.
Where's Deadpool, the animated series, where Deadpool's a high school student? Anyway, so the premise of this is Tony Stark, but he's Peter Parker-ish.
Yeah, he invents the Iron Man suit and he's going to show it to his dad, but first his dad's going to take him to this archaeological dig he's working on. Yeah,
but also the thing is, I guess we're jumping into plot, which there's not much of, so we can kind of just run through it, is Tony has also invented the Earth Mover.
Yes. No,
yeah, Earth...
I think he invented the laser that the Earth Mover uses, and his dad invented the Earth Mover itself.
Yeah, something like that. Which the Earth Mover is just this thing that like cuts into the crust of the earth and
helps them dig up archaeological things.
Yeah, and that was another thing of like this pilot. I guess this wasn't really a pilot because it was already.
Yeah.
Well, there's like two meanings to pilot. Is like just the first episode of the show, but also like in the traditional sense of like we're testing it out.
Yeah.
But this two-parter really wants you to get to the action and introduce all the villains because it's very quick.
Yeah, so the plane goes down.
Yeah,
immediately.
And that's the thing is like they don't really explain the Earth Movers in depth. They don't even explain Iron Man in depth. But it's set up as a thing where like the plane goes down and you don't really see what happens, but it cuts to 6 months later, and Tony's living with Rhodey.
Yeah,
and Obadiah Stane has taken control of Stark Industries. Mm-hmm. So they set it up as this thing.
6 weeks, not 6 months. Because Tony comes back and he's surprised that Stane is in charge, and I think Pepper says that he was missing for 6 weeks after the crash.
Something like that. But they set it up as like, here's this moment where Tony even really doesn't remember what happened, and he kind of, he remembers back to like putting on the suit and stuff, but it's like this is sort of this defining moment or whatever that's going to keep being brought up on the show.
Yeah.
So Obadiah Stane in this, let's talk design after we run through the plot.
Yeah, so Stane takes over. There's these hints that he wanted to do something with the Earth Movers that Robert Stark wasn't down with.
Right.
We don't know what it is yet. We meet the Mandarin. We find out that at the archaeological dig, Howard Stark pulled out a power ring. Discount Thanos. Pull out a ring. So discount Thanos. Mandarin is like, I'm going to collect all the rings myself. And because he's also got a ring, but he wants the ring that now Obadiah Stane has because he took it from Howard.
Yeah, that's sort of the end of the first episode. The first episode also ends with Tony putting on the Iron Man suit for, I guess, the second time and stopping a train. And we get the hint is like, this was done weirdly. So in the first episode, we get that Tony needs to be recharged. He has the implant in his chest in this, as does every incarnation of Iron Man, I believe.
Yeah, up until Iron Man 3 when he just gets it removed.
Yeah. They kind of dance around like what it is. They don't really explain it. Again, maybe they're just trying to get to the action. But I thought there's like, all right, this is a kid's show. They're dancing around the fact that he's going to die.
He's got a hole in his chest.
Right, or like that if he doesn't recharge this thing, he's going to die. But then later in the second episode, they specifically say like, Tony, like you almost died. Like all those people almost died. And they keep referencing death. So it's like, oh, okay, obviously they're not, sort of dancing around this topic.
Yeah, I mean, kids understand death.
Yeah, and this is definitely aimed like, like older kids or whatever.
Right.
Like maybe, I don't know, the demographic would be like 12
Tweens.
to, yeah.
Tweens.
Sure.
Comes from between kids and teens. Tweens. I actually just made that up.
Oh.
I'm not going to lie, I just made that up. But it sounds valid.
Yeah, it does. So that's how the first episode ends. Tony
stops the train. Then the second episode,
very Superman.
The Mandarin, the actual Mandarin question mark, the nephew of the stepson of the guy who was wearing the Mandarin suit in the first episode, he captures his stepdad by stealing the Mandarin suit.
Right. The first half of the episode is essentially dedicated to Pepper, who's also in this. And there's also a scene with Happy Hogan, who is like a basketball player or whatever. Yeah. So Pepper is suspicious of Tony Stark. Word about Iron Man has gotten out to the news media and stuff, and she's like, "You're Iron Man, aren't you?" And he's like, no.
Yeah, Pepper's just a walking exposition dump for the first 2 episodes, basically.
Kind of.
I'm pretty sure in the later episodes that goes away.
They're setting up this thing of like his secret identity. I mean, obviously, it's obvious that over the course of these 26 episodes, she's going to learn who he is at some point. Right. But they're setting up this thing of like, she's onto his secret identity, and Rhodey and Tony have to keep it a secret. Mm-hmm. And I admit that scene where she goes to Rhodey and he's like trying to cover it up. He's like, he's in the computer lab and he's giving me like that was kind of funny, I guess.
Give me instructions on how to fix my computer. He's like, oh, the computer lab's the first place I checked. He's like, oh, well, you must have just missed him. Okay, you need to go now.
Meanwhile, Tony is fighting a group of villains because Obadiah is trying to use the Earth Movers, and Tony's like, no, you can't do that. And then the Mandarin
pops in and messes stuff up.
Yeah.
Apparently that purple ring gives him the power of teleportation.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what the green ring does.
Yeah. This was cool. They're collecting these rings with different powers.
Yeah. Discount Thanos. Except there's 10 rings and not 5.
But they're also setting up this thing of like, obviously the kid who like takes on the role of the Mandarin is going to be like in Tony's school or something and is going to be like a bully or whatever.
Right.
Probably.
Gene. His name is Gene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Genes.
This is a French animated series.
Right.
So there you go. I'm kidding.
Yeah, so they're clearly also setting up the Mandarin and Obadiah to be overarching villains for the first season.
Right, but it felt kind of Spider-Man 3-esque where they're throwing in too many things at once.
I guess. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be like one-off villains of the week as well.
Sure.
That Tony will inevitably beat in the 23 minutes that these episodes run.
Yep.
I went and read the overarching plotline on Wikipedia, and apparently Howard's alive at the end of season 1. It's revealed that he survived the plane crash somehow. So that's a thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Apparently the Mandarin was the one who crashed the plane. Although in the first episode they make it out a lot like it was Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, they do. Especially because you haven't even been introduced to the Mandarin at that point.
Yeah, and Obadiah Stane, basically his phone call right before the plane crashes, he's like, Howard, I'm giving you one last chance to think about the Earth movements. He's like, no. And he's like, all right, well, you made your decision. And then the plane goes down. I was like, all right.
All right, so let's talk like design and animation and stuff. So this is obviously a 3D animated series. It's no secret. Ish. Well, all right, so it's no secret that I'm a pretty big animation fan, but it's also no secret that like I have no love for 3D animation, whether it's this
SMH
style of
fan.
Whether it's this style of animation or like Pixar.
What do you have against Pixar?
I mean, I don't know, nothing actually, yeah, not personally because I don't know like anyone from Pixar personally, but like just conceptually, like 3D animation and just computer animation in general, even not necessarily 3D, has been like really detrimental to American animation in the 21st century. Not necessarily, well, maybe not necessarily French animation, not necessarily Japanese animation, but American animation, like, yeah, it has been kind of detrimental.
In what ways?
It's like over the 20th century, like American animation techniques were built up. A lot of them were developed by Disney. And then once computer animation sort of came out, or started to be used more widely in the beginning of this century, a lot of those techniques were thrown out and replaced with things that people didn't really know how to use yet. And you can see it like digital animated shows in a way. Like there's things that like could have been done differently.
I mean, I think it's just a different style. I mean, I don't think necessarily the techniques were thrown out. I mean, that's why Disney went back and like made Princess and the Frog, right? Which is a 2D animated movie.
Yeah, well, that's also Disney using their own animation techniques, and that's also digital animation, as are some of the 90s Disney movies, I believe, but...
Well, Treasure Planet was, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about like TV animation, like we're talking about Cartoon Network, of like digital animation is like... I don't know, it's just... The techniques that were used and stuff in like the 90s and such.
But I don't know if that's so much like,
you know,
I mean, I think you're pinning things on 3D animation that are actually more easily attributed to money. Like, I think we talked about this with non-animated television shows and the difference in quality between American dramas and British dramas, and that British dramas tend to put more care and effort into their work, and it's just 3D animation. It's just like it's cheaper to do than to do something
not necessarily,
2D
not
animated.
necessarily. But also, I mean, I'm not necessarily talking about 3D animation, and in fact, like, I'm probably not talking about 3D animation. I'm talking about digital animation, digital 2D. Which, like, and that's the thing of like, you know, movies like, well, one of the reasons why Spirited Away, although I hate that name. I hate that. Whatever. I'm not going to go into why I hate the name Spirited Away versus the Japanese name of it is The Spiriting Away of Sen and Chihiro, which is, it should be called that. I'm just call it Spirited Away for convenience. But like one of the big reasons why that's like or why I consider that like meta animation is because that movie is heavily about like, how do we incorporate digital animation in a way that like builds upon 100 years of history instead of throwing it out? And I feel like in a lot of American animation, except maybe stuff like, well, actually, I don't know if Bill Plimpton used digital animation. I don't think so. I feel it's like American TV animation, especially shows on like Cartoon Network, whatever, is like things were thrown out. Ideas from the past were thrown out. And I feel that was to the detriment of 2D animation.
Yeah, but again, I think you're misattributing things to animation itself and not to the actual reason, which is that like Cartoon Network is a money-making business. Like Spirited Away was created by someone who actually had love and passion for the craft, whereas like, do you really?
There are those memes of.
But like, do you really think that like whoever the CEO of the animation division at Cartoon Network like really has love and care for the craft of animation? Like, I would argue no.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of Cartoon Network, but I also I mean, it's obviously not just animation. It's like also just the degradation of like, I don't know,
artistic
just integrity of whatever it is. But like, I don't think you can write off animation as not being a part of this.
Maybe.
I don't think you can.
It's like,
well, I mean, you're right. Like, digital is used because of like, I mean, it's not. That's like the thing. It's like it's not even necessarily like easier or better, but like it's envisioned to be, or it's envisioned to be the future. It's envisioned to be like, all right, throw this away, and now we're doing this because it's supposedly better, and in some ways is, or like from a money making perspective.
I mean, I guess the thing is, you need less skill. You need less skill as like the lowest level animator. You need less skill to do digital animation than to do traditional hand drawn or anything that's not digital animation. Because you can
digital is hand drawn still, but it's just digital.
Not all. I mean, yeah, you have artists who draw it, but then like you have an animator who you can just train to use a program to actually animate it, right? And that's easier. It's easier to train someone to use a program to animate something than to like train someone to animate something by hand.
Yeah, but I mean, even in digital animations, a lot of things are still drawn, but that leads to also lower quality because you'll never be able to like get the quality of like a hand drawn cell.
Yeah,
digital.
I mean, exactly. There's like a segmentation there between the actual like animator and the artist, I think, compared to traditional animation where they're linked more intrinsically than in digital.
There's also like this thing about digital, which is like it's maybe like on this weird like theoretical level, but like animation is just it's static pictures that everyone's made flip books as a kid. It's just pictures, picture after picture that are done so fast that they look like they're moving. But like digital, in a way, like takes that out of the equation on some level. Well,
because digital, yeah,
I guess that's what our like eyes do. But
I mean, yes.
So you can't really get out of it. But
I'll say, well, like digital, you don't have to draw every single frame. Your computer can interpolate between the frames, and you can interpolate down to like hundreds of thousands of frames per second. Which again, that's why it's easier to train someone to use a program. You put in frame 1, you put in frame 10, and then you program the computers like give me 9 frames between these 2 frames.
Well, that's also why it's part of the reason why the longest animated movies like ever are from the last 20 years and not the 20th century.
Yeah, like it's kind of surprising to realize that like Snow White or
it's like half an hour or something.
Yeah, it's like an hour long. Alice in Wonderland, I think, is like an hour long.
Yeah. I think Snow White's like 35 minutes or something like that. I don't remember, honestly. But, I mean, I'm not the expert on this. I probably said a lot of stuff in the last, 5 minutes that's wrong. So,
well, I also,
there you go.
Watching this, I don't know if this was just me, but I saw a lot of, like, weird anime influence in a lot of the characters' like, poses and actions, and I don't know.
Well, here's the thing about, like, a 3D show that's done on this budget is, like,
non-existent.
The character models first of all, let me just say that this reminded me of like those video like machinima or like those video game like videos that people used to make and maybe still do.
Yeah.
Or like what's that, Ruby or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
But
or
like
Red versus Blue, which is still going, by the way.
But like
I think Ruby is an actual like animated series.
But it's done in the style of like this is like a
No, Ruby's done in the style of like a Japanese animation, but it's Western animated.
But it's done with like these 3D models that aren't that like they look kind of blocky and they look kind of like this, but like
Red versus Blue is still done
with Halo.
I think so.
But yeah, the thing about like all the character like models are either the same or very similar with swapped heads.
Yeah. Also, you can tell there's a lot of reused shots.
Right, there are a lot of reused
shots. When Tony gets in the suit and it launches out of the like little reactor or whatever, there's a shot that's like between the episodes they just flipped it vertically. It's just the same shot though. Use the same establishing shot of the school like 3 times.
Yeah. The characters definitely look like they're moving on rails and stuff like that. And that's another thing about like, and this is specific to 3D animation, but also digital.
Because it'd be really difficult to do 3D animation.
Yeah,
non-digitally. I'd be more impressed than anything else.
Is like you have to program like where the characters are going to walk, like their paths and stuff.
I guess that would be considered like stop motion. Would be,
I guess,
like non-digital 3D animation.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of what like Leica does.
Yeah.
The Leica uses computer-generated effects. They still do all the scenes are still stop motion, but they'll do like blue screening if they need to do like background effects.
Sure. Yeah. So in this, you can like they have to program like where all the characters are going to walk. And it's like, it's very like on rails, right?
Yeah.
Or is that just me?
Kind of, yeah. Just interesting. It's you could tell it's very low budget, this show.
Yeah, it is. Which isn't necessarily like a bad thing.
No. Yeah.
In terms of like the sound of everything, like the soundtrack's there. But like the voice acting.
Subpar.
It's subpar across the board, except like Tony's all right, and Pepper is like pretty good actually.
Yeah. Although part of that's also the writing is subpar as well. I mean, I know it's a kid show, but that doesn't excuse it.
There are kid shows with great writing, like Batman the Animated Series, or like the ones we've talked about in this episode, like Teen Titans, or
Yeah, being a kid show doesn't preclude it from having good.
Not Teen Titans Go, where they scream like burrito every 5 seconds.
Except they don't do that. Have you ever actually watched the show?
Yes. And they do that.
No. Having watched like at least 20 episodes of that show.
Okay, yeah, you're more versed in it than I am, but
although arguably not by choice. I used to babysit some kids and they'd always put it on, and it was either that or do my physics homework, and given the choice.
There's some physics homework in this where Tony's like, this is a little easy.
Yeah, this book seems outdated.
All books are outdated like the second they get written, right?
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's Iron Man Armored Adventures.
Yeah, that's Iron Man Armored Adventures. Check it out if you're like really curious.
Really desperate for. You've watched. This is like the thing you watch if you watched every Iron Man thing and you're like, oh, guess I have to.
What's left?
Yeah, what's left? Whatever. I'm not going to watch any more of it.
Me neither.
I mean, when we watched X-Men the Animated Series for this podcast, I continued on with that first season and watched like a good portion of it. I didn't finish it. But I'm not going to watch any more of this.
Bummer. You're missing out on... I don't actually know what you're missing out on. MODOK.
What's like... Moloch from Lake 7. No.
Well, I guess that all being said, you can email us at thedoctor@decoratevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, anger, rants, love letters, your thoughts on Tony, the high school-aged Stark. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable, on us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Triple Play. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And like we mentioned last time, next time we're going to be watching Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. But until then, the end.